In this video, we're going to go through how to turn a table of values into a linear equation. So here we have a table of values, and they want us to write it as a linear equation. Remember, linear equations can be written in this format, y equals mx plus b. Now we need to change two letters in this equation into numbers. The two letters that we need to change are m and b. M represents the slope of this table, and B represents the y-intercept of this table. So let's start first with the y-intercept. The y-intercept of a table of values that is representing a linear function is the y value that goes with x is 0. So you look in the table and you look for x to be 0. And once you find it, the y value that goes with the 0, that's the y-intercept. So in this table, the y-intercept is 11 because x is 0, y is 11. So I'm going to change the equation to be y equals mx plus 11. Now we need to calculate the slope of this table. To calculate slope, we're going to use the formula that we learned earlier this year, and that is the change in y values all divided by the change in x values. And writing out the words change and change, writing that out is a little tedious, so we're going to start to shortcut it with this. That little triangle is delta, the Greek letter delta, and that means how much did something change. So this formula right here is the same as this formula here. This one's just shorter and easier to work with. So anyway, this formula says how much are the y values changing, all divided by how much are the x values changing. So how much are the y values changing in this table? Each column is increasing by 3. So that means our change in y is 3. And our change in x, well, each column is increasing by 1. So our change in x is 1. 3 divided by 1 is 3. So our slope of our equation here is 3. That means our equation for this table is y equals 3x plus 11. That's what I'm going to write as my equation for this table. And just to check our work here, I should be able to pick any x here and plug it in. If x is 2, 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 11 is 17, which is what the table says it should be. So all these values should work in the equation. I can also tack on another row or column in this equation and fill in more numbers if I'd like. So if x is 3, 3 times 3 is 9. 9 plus 11 is 20. The next row, the next column in this table is 20. All right, let's do one more example here. Same exact setup, y equals mx plus b. If we want to write the equation of this line that's represented by this table, let's look for x is 0. So that means our y-intercept is 8. That means our y-intercept is 8. And then our slope, our m, is going to be change in y over change in x. How much are the y's and the x's changing? Well, let's look at the change in x. It keeps going up by 1, right? It keeps going up by 1. So our change in x, our denominator, is 1. Our change in y, it keeps going down by 1. So our change in y is negative 1, right? 8 minus 1 is 7, 7 minus 1 is 6, 6 minus 1 is 5, 5 minus 1 is 4. So 1 divided by 1 is 1. A negative 1 divided by 1 would be negative 1. So our equation for this table is negative 1x plus 8. Now remember, when you write an equation, you don't have to put a coefficient of 1 or negative 1, right? So you should just write it like this. Y equals negative x plus 8. So that's the equation for this table. Remember, slope should always be written as a whole number or a negative, an integer. So we have 3x over here, we have negative 1 over here. If it turns out to be a fraction, you should write it as a reduced fraction. So if it works out to be like 2 over 4, you should reduce that to 1/2. And if it works out to like 6 over 2, you should obviously simplify that to 3. If it works out to 6 out of 4, well, you should reduce that to 3 over 2. You should write it as an improper fraction. That's all today. Thanks for watching.